my YouTube channel. Where I share my backyard food forest with you. I've been doing this for about a decade now. If you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to support the channel, just use the links in the description of any of the Eat Your Backyard videos. When you go to Amazon, use that to get to Amazon. That's an affiliate link. Then we get a small portion back, which supports the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. So that's a pretty standard YouTube thing. I always tell people that's the easiest way to show you care. Okay, so today we're going to read this, one of my favorite essays, written in 1841 by my man Ralph Waldo Emerson. But before we do that, we're going to feed the chickens. We're going to put the little chickie-doos back in their free range corner of the yard. You can hear them in there. They're talking to me. And I'll put this essay down. Boy, this is gold. Where's gold? All right. Look at that purslane. Oh, those chickies would love to eat some of that. All right, let's. Good morning, chickie-doos. Yep, I talk to my chickens. All systems operational. Yeah, come on, enough of the small talk. Get me out of here. I know there are worms waiting for me. One, two. Look at that. Oh. Hey, sweetie. Ready for a big day? Go get it. Team Eat Your Backyard. Composting on duty. You're not sure. Maybe you'll sleep in. Hey, sweetie. You're such a sweet chicken. No, not yet. Not yet. Do this in an orderly fashion. Hold on. No. Okay. Now, before we do that, let's make sure. Okay, good. So I have my funneling effect ready to go. See if we can make this smooth. You know, if we want to make it really smooth, what we're going to do is have soldier fly larva worms. I'm going to see if I can do it just by pure habit. All right. Let's give it a go. Oh no, this is where it all goes wrong. Okay, good. Now, if they all stay together, they'll go. If the flock scatters, the chance of getting them back into the right mode is difficult. All right. Come on. There you go. That easy. That was a good one. You don't always go that smoothly. Enjoy. Just have a little piece of wire that I fasten on. That's more than enough. Okay. Oh, they're loving that. Okay, and let's give you some of these. Oh, you knew. Yeah. Yeah, chick. You want some mealworms? Beautiful chickens. You should see if you can get chickens in your backyard. I know a lot of people I tell about chickens are curious about how they might do it on their own, and so was I. I was curious if I would actually really enjoy the chicken thing, and I really, really enjoy it. We're down to not many worms, but good thing I have lots of Grub Terra worms. All right, there you go. Little morning snack for you girls. Bring you out some more later. Boy, we've been giving them a lot of food waste. I noticed that I refilled their feeder last night, and I noticed that it wasn't very low compared. It's been going down very slowly lately, ever since we started to feed them our kitchen scraps and lots of these grubs. They've got an endless supply of worms and bugs down underneath that mulch. Oh, one other thing I'll tell you about. Last night, I decided to move all the mango leaves I had been letting dry there. What I do is I chop tree branches and then I let them rest in a spot and all the leaves fall off, and all the leaves fell off, and you can see all these mango leaves back here. I use the mango leaves as a fresh bedding for the chickens. They love it. I'd caution you when working with large amounts of mango leaves and so on, when you're working with mangoes at all, it does have urushiol in it, which is a type of the same irritating sap chemical, whatever that is in poison ivy. So you want to be careful. If you're sensitive to that, you could have a bad day. It happens to a lot of people where they get a massive poison ivy like reaction and they have no idea why. So worth thinking about before you interact with a gigantic pile of mango leaves like I did last night. And I'll admit it, even though I'm not very sensitive to it, it did make my hands itch. So it's a real thing. Okay, so here we go. I moved out of that back area because mosquitoes are already so bad. Man is his own star, and the soul that can render an honest and perfect man commands all light, all influence, all fate. Nothing to him falls early or too late. Our acts, our angels are, or good or ill, our fatal shadows that walk by us still. Cast the bantling on the rocks, suckle him with the she-wolf's teat, wintered with the hawk and fox, power and speed be hands and feet. Now, Emerson started off a lot of his essays, so did Thoreau, with beautiful poem. Very deep, beautiful poem. So now let's see. I think, people like transcendentalists like Emerson and Thoreau being my two favorites, they would have been perfectly in tune with concepts like permaculture. In fact, they were doing permaculture before permaculture was a thing. Certainly Thoreau on Walden Pond, but one of their major precepts, which I completely bought into, is self-reliance. And nobody says it better than Emerson. So I'll read a bit of this. And if you're curious about it, all the essays of Emerson and Thoreau are available freely on the internet with lots of analysis. These are two people that have shaped American culture, certainly. Oh, thanks, Bonnie. I appreciate it. Love your chicken setup. Yeah, me too. I mean, love's the right word. I really do love it. Here we go. Here's what Emerson said about self-reliance. I read the other day some verses written by an eminent painter, which were original and not conventional. The soul always hears an admonition in such lines, let the subject be what it may. The sentiment they instill is of more value than any thought they may contain. To believe our own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius. Speak your latent conviction, and it shall be the universal sense. For the inmost in due time becomes the outmost, and our first thought is rendered back to us by the trumpets of the last judgment. Familiar as the voice of the mind is to each, the highest merit we ascribe to Moses, Plato, and Milton is that they set at naught books and traditions, and spoke not what men, but what they thought. A man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Yet he dismisses without notice his thought, because it is his. In every work of genius, we recognize majesty. Great works of art have no more affecting lesson for us than this. They teach us to abide by our spontaneous impression with good-humored inflexibility than most when the whole cry of voices is on the other side. Else tomorrow, a stranger will say with masterly good sense precisely what we have thought and felt all the time. We shall be forced then, and we shall be forced to take with shame our own opinion from another. There's a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better, for worse, as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to him but through his toil bestowed on that plot of land which is given to him to till. We'll pause right there. Look at this little plot of land that's given to me to till. I'm tilling it. We're tilling the heck out of it now. All right, let's get back to the essay. The power which resides in him is new in nature, and none but he knows what that is which he can do, nor does he know until he has tried. Not for nothing. One face, one character, one fact makes much impression on him, and another, none. This sculpture in the memory is not without pre-established harmony. The eye was placed where one ray should fall, and it might testify that it might testify of that particular ray, but we but half express ourselves and are ashamed of that divine idea which each of us represents. It may be safely trusted as proportionate and of good issues, so it be faithfully imparted, but God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. A man is relieved and gay when he has put his heart into his work and done his best. But what he has said or done otherwise shall give him no peace. It is a deliverance which does not deliver. In the attempt, his genius deserts him. No muse befriends, no invention, no hope. Trust thyself. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. Accept the place the divine providence has found for you, the society of your contemporaries, the connection of events. Great men have always done so and confided themselves childlike to the genius of their age, betraying the perception that the absolutely trustworthy was seated at their heart, working through their hands, predominating in all their being. And we are now men, and must accept in the highest mind the same transcendent destiny. And not minors and invalids in a protected corner, not cowards fleeing before the revolution, but guides, redeemers, benefactors, obeying the almighty effort and advancing on chaos and the dark. All right, so there you go. That's a taste, a beautiful taste of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who I would encourage you all to dive deeper into. Those are some of the most truly beautiful words, I believe, that have ever been written. It actually choked me up there at the end. And when something has that effect on you, or it actually produces an emotional reaction, that means that it has actually been physiologically wired into your being. Really kind of cool. And that feeling you get is your body releasing hormones and chemicals between systems in your body. It's really quite fascinating. It's really very much linked to what you find meaningful in life, which, I find these chickens to be quite meaningful. I find my family to be meaningful. Beautiful truths, like I think, people like Emerson discovered, as many others have. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Socrates or his work, but part of a collection of Greek philosophers that were really, I think, map makers for logic and other things, Stoicism, Stoic philosophy. But one of the things that Socrates said was that he always did what his intuition told him. Always. Regardless. And that's an interesting thing to do, because most people don't do it. Trust your intuition. We've all heard it. Well, what is intuition? Intuition is potentially the things that you find value in being expressed through your physiology, making you, it's pretty cool. Anyway, we won't go too deep into that, but chickens, man. What do I do with all these? What do I do with all these branches? That's my next thing. I halfway thought it would be cool to get a wood chipper, but I avoid the urge to get more and more complex. Typically what I do after I've taken all the leaves off these mango branches like this is I'll just kind of slowly go at them with the loppers and etc., and chop them up into small pieces of wood. I'd like to get all this carbon returned back into the yard. But it sure did provide a lot of mango leaves. I was actually kind of surprised. I think I'll probably just chop them up, hand chop them up, throw them back in there. All that compost piled up back in the chicken run area will break down over time, and it's its own massive compost pile. My two composters here always look like they're getting kind of full, and they're never full, so I don't know, they're almost like bottomless pits of compost capability. I actually didn't even put any leaves from this last harvest in there. Still thinking of a third, but if I get a third, then I won't have this area to let all the leaves drop, because like I said, as I chop them, I just lay them here, and then all the leaves drop, and then I collect them. I think I'll keep it free for now. Check this out. That is a black sapote. In other words, a chocolate pudding fruit. And I had to trim this tree back heavily. This is one that's gotten wind whipped by hurricanes quite a bit. This is actually a relative of the persimmon. It's a type of persimmon. You can see if you know what persimmons look like. It looks like one. But this is one that has the consistency of chocolate pudding when it's ripe. And they are just all over the place. It's actually a pretty decent producer, and it produces, it seems like, kind of year round. So I like that. I trimmed this back so severely that I was wondering how it was going to do, but it came back better than ever. And of course, everything we're putting the bunny manure on and the vermiculture, so it is thriving. Really thriving. My dwarf coconut is now taller than me. Green Malay coconut. Just to hit it with some more fertilizer, but you can see that dark green growth. See what it was like from the nursery where I got it. A little more yellow, and then you can see all the new growth now. Super strong. It can only do so well pot bound. I was very pleased with the condition of this plant when I got it. It's pretty mature in the pot for how small the pot was. And got a tussle going on back in the chicken pen. Yeah, it's always the what they say about these Rhode Island red hybrids is that they're smaller birds than the barred rocks. Chick, chick. Are my chickens trained or what? I think they're well trained. Camel, how bad do we think the hurricane season will be this year? I think it's going to be pretty bad. I'm in that, risky is how I term that, because we've already been surrounded twice by tropical storms here in Florida. We actually got one now that's shooting up the East Coast. Another one's that's heading down towards the Yucatan Peninsula. Below us, weather's beautiful here, but either one of those could have created a bad day. Right, chickens, we're glad that didn't happen, but we're not even at the start of we're just at the start of the peak of hurricane season. The surf has been great. Tropical Storm Henry. Oh no, sorry, Tropical Storm Henri is how people pronounce it. Henri. That one produced one day of good surf. I actually posted a video last night of yesterday's surf. After I surfed for a while, I got a video of some of the good conditions before the wind kind of turned on shore a bit. Even when the wind turned on shore, it was still pretty fun. But I think, this year could be a tough one with hurricanes just because it's been so active early, but I don't base that on anything scientific. That's just a hunch. When I see this much action early, it just seems like the thing is active for whatever reason. I don't know. Yeah, there's another one out there off of Africa. It's headed this way too. That hasn't formed up yet, but they say it's got a 20% chance of forming up. So yeah, hurricanes probably. I always just live ready for it, as much as possible. But also, like the hurricane thing for me too is the acknowledgement of absolute destruction of everything you possess at your house. That's really what it represents. And having gone through so many of near misses, and even a couple that went over, they were smaller ones though. But I mean, if you have a real hurricane go over your location, the eye of a real hurricane, it's over. The whole city is over. Everything is over. There's no strap that's going to hold down the chicken coop. I mean, it's just a catastrophe. And no strap that's going to hold on your roof. So there is that. But you just prepared to make the right decision. I typically stay and do not evacuate now. But there's a limit to that too. I'm not going to be foolish. But once you evacuate from a barrier island, one of the things that you might not realize if you're not on a barrier island is they don't let you back on. So the hurricane passes through, and now you're dependent on the authorities or whatever to allow you to access your home again. So that for me is problematic. I hesitate to let go of it. But so I don't. But also the other reason isn't just that, because I'm not trying to cling to possessions dangerously, but it is that, most of the impact of hurricanes, in my opinion, is pretty small. The eye doesn't go over that big of an area. But, so most of what you're dealing with are the effects of the outside of it usually, if you're lucky enough to stay out of the path of the eye. And then a lot of that stuff you can mitigate if you're around. If a window breaks or you can put a covering over it temporarily. If you get a leak in the roof, you can go mitigate it before it fills your house up with water and destroys everything. There are things like that little things that happen that you can deal with. So we've always kind of handled it that way. Sorry, I missed a question there, a comment. Big Wave Dave, hey. What's your opinions of ducks instead of chickens? That is the best question of the live stream, Big Wave Dave. Without any question, that is a great question. Here's what I think about ducks compared to chickens. First of all, it occurs to me that you can get a duck very easily at Tractor Supply. Pekin ducks were there, P-E-K-I-N. P-E-K-I-n. Pekin ducks, I think, Pekin ducks, I don't know what they're called, how that's pronounced. But the little white ducks with the yellow beaks, incredibly cute, were available there. And they are actually called, I did some research on this topic, they're actually called the gardener's best friend because of the high quality manure and the fact that they are such excellent composters. They'll eat most everything. Okay. So they're very they make, of course, the quacking sound, and the ducks, I haven't seen ducks mentioned in a lot of these county ordinances in Florida. I've seen only chickens. So a duck may be considered livestock. Therefore, you might get into a tricky area of regulation in your area. Depends. You'd have to look into it. But so these are all things I thought of when I was considering duck vice chicken. And the other thing is to know about ducks is that they really do like to have a wet area. Most people provide them with a you know, a small, with a pond or with a little, you know, something, a bucket filled with water, but you need to provide them with water. And then they get in that water, but they also produce a lot of mud. So they are, you know, considered to be fairly messy, depending on how you keep them. I'm sure there's a way to avoid that if you know what you're doing, but these are generalities that I encountered when I was looking into it. And then, you know, the other thing about ducks I was a little concerned about, and I don't really know the answer to this, but I'm still wondering, is their loudness, the volume of their quacking. Seems like it's pretty loud and it's pretty noticeable from far off. So I would be concerned about that. I don't know. One of the things I want to be careful of is not irritating my neighbors, you know. So be a good neighbor seems like a good idea in life. What's what the good book said. You know, you got it right for sure. Be a good neighbor if possible. So I'm really concerned about that. So I don't know how the ducks would fit into that paradigm. Now chickens, I noticed with the sound, you know, they do make some kind of weird sounds sometimes. Even the hens will, you know, make these sounds, but they more or less blend in with the other birds. Yeah, let's see. Will you sing for us? You think you're getting more worms, don't you? Look, all the other hens are laying down, taking the morning nap already. And you're the only one up. Yeah, so there's similar sounds to the birds that are around here, so I think they blend right in. They're very quiet. My rooster, on the other hand, I had one rooster out of the group of chicks we bought, which I could have known was a rooster if I'd researched a little bit more. He had a white dot on his head, which is it's a indication that it was a male for barred rock chickens. I could have known that, but anyway, it was fun having a rooster. But I heard him start to crow, and that's when he was relocated to the farm. We took him over to a local farm that was happy to take him. But yeah, the rooster is intolerable, clearly. And even at the young chickie age of 3 months, that rooster, he was just starting to figure out how to make that sound. It was noticeable. So I think chickens are better for most backyards in a suburban setting than a duck. For all those reasons I mentioned, just seems like chickens are pretty easy. Yeah, all the mulberry trees, all the Persian mulberry trees I planted from cuttings this year. I did a live stream. You could check out. It's one of the first live streams I did, where I brought a table out here, and I actually got 3 Persian mulberry cuttings that were about 6 inches long each from a neighbor of mine. It's friendly enough to let me take a cutting. And I planted those, and they all grew, and all 3 of them are these gigantic mulberry trees. Now, this is why, if you don't have a mulberry tree in your life, man, you need to get one if you're into this kind of stuff. It's so rewarding. I grew up with mulberry trees, so for me, it's even like a childhood thing. I'll show you a branch just to accentuate this idea. Show you a pot where I planted a cutting about a week ago. Yep, there they are. This is a ever-bearing mulberry. See, it's already got fruit on the cutting. Just to give you an example of how vigorous a mulberry is. If you have a mulberry within arm's reach, you can get a cutting, you're going to have a situation like this. You see, even the little bud nodes on this cutting are swelling up. This one's going to be a good one for sure. In fact, I like it when they take a moment to get the roots going first. See these little white dots along the stem here? Those all can become roots, I think, which is one of the reasons that it grows so well. But yeah, mulberry trees. Now I'm taking the approach that the more chop and drop material I have, the better. So I'm just planting like crazy. I mean, I'm doing ridiculous experimental things like this. You know, who does this? It makes no sense, but it does make sense from a permaculture perspective of observe and interact. So all these things I grew from seeds, and they're planted really close together, but look, they're doing pretty well so far. But I want to get to know the nature of how they're going to grow like this. That's a carambola tree that we actually Jack planted these seeds and grew up a bunch of trees. Planted that. That's about a half a year old. That's a what is that? Well, anyway, we'll go back to that. That's a tamarind. And that's a papaya. Oh, moringa. It's a moringa. Yeah, that one I planted just a seed. Just shoved a seed in there and it grew. Oh, interesting. Quite interesting. I planted roselli in these pots, and I have not even watered them. You see this? It's dry. This goes to show you how good roselle is for growing. It's a type of hibiscus that produces lots of delicious products: leaves, fruit, pectin for preserving. But look, it sprouted without even watering it. I planted one seed per pot. I bet you every single one will grow. And I'm planning on, I might do another season of what you got growing on. Let me know if that would be interesting, where I plant some more stuff and track it over time. That was a fun series to do. And I've got space on the grow table now, and it's getting now to the point where we could plan a whole bunch of new things. I already started the series without videotaping it. But yeah, I've just got stuff planted all along the perimeter here now, just like that, where we're going to see what happens. Another star fruit, carambola. Another Hawaiian papaya. Now look at this moringa. Beautiful. It's another one that's less than a few months old. Well, all right. So I think it's time to start the day. I appreciate you jumping on the stream with me. And I hope you have a great day. Get out there and do something. Live in the here and now. Maybe read an essay by Emerson and let me know what you think about it in the comments. I'm certainly interested in that topic area. All right. Thanks for watching.